Good. Okay. I will try to make this work.
Great.
I'm hit share. It looks like it's on the right. You can see the left side stuff.
Hmm.
But I will just I think I'm just going to go with this if that's okay because I'm not
Sounds-
getting I can hit play actually. Here we go. All right. Can
Hey,
you
there you go. Perfect.
Excellent. Okay, good. All right. So um have to start with Sarah. She was my wife, 16 years. We were foreign service officers. We were most recently serving in Ukraine. Can you see that picture, these pictures of her? Just want to make sure because I can't see you guys at all.
We can. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, there she is. She's speaking. She did our rule of law programs, which is the anti-corruption stuff, and you can see the police in the background of that picture. But by the time she finished, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we were there through the beginning of the invasion. She was managing a $600 million program. A bright star in our generation of foreign service officers. So anyway, she was killed when she was riding her bike back from our kids' elementary school in outside of DC in Bethesda, and essentially she always chose to ride her bike if she could, just to stay fit and to enjoy the outdoors and be environmentally friendly. It wasn't a big ideological thing. She just did it a lot, and she was killed on this road where the flowers are, right where the flowers are. And this is the scene the day of with the news coverage and the big traffic jam. Essentially, a truck came up behind her on this in this when she was in the bike lane, and it turned into that parking lot, right hooking her. I'm sure you know that expression, and crushing her instantly. And I don't know, just an awful traumatic event. I think we're all familiar with these kind of events now. Obviously, it just happened with Louisa Gag, for example. I was so upset after this that I began to push for not only safer bike lanes, as this media story says, but for safer infrastructure for all vulnerable road users. Um, I began to learn about this problem in the United States and really began to realize that we were facing an epidemic of traffic violence. I saw that the statistics the year was killed. It was the deadliest year for pedestrians in 40 years, and it was the deadliest year on record for cyclists, going back to the beginning of the FARS data. And I know you all know that data and know about this problem. So the first thing that we did was held a memorial ride. Got as many people as we could together uh, just days after her death. And this was the scene there, right there on the road. But to me, that really wasn't enough. Uh, I really thought that we needed to have some advocacy that was linked to the ride. I thought we needed to do something. So I organized with some advocates here in DC, the Washington Area Bicyclist Association, friends that were lobbyists, Trek Bicycle, and Families for Safe Streets, to have a ride that went to Congress and stood in front of the Congress building to ask for. We stood in front of the Congress building to ask for specific legislative changes. So this is the ride. These are some of the photos there. And we got Jamie Raskin to come, our congressperson. We had Earl Blumenauer and our senators give statements, and we had representatives of federal agencies come, and Amy Cohen from Families for Safe Streets came. And we had a great event, just a wonderful, warm, well-attended event with about 2,000 people. And we had specific asks. And there were these two things: giving an appropriation to the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Act and some safe trucking regulations. Um, we actually helped get that appropriation. We didn't get any safe trucking regulations out of this, but the most important thing was that we got a commitment for a new bill to improve safety for cyclists and pedestrians from Jamie Raskin, my congressperson. And that bill is the Sarah Debbink Langenkamp Active Transportation Safety Act, which is now just passed committee in the House of Representatives and is poised to become law as part of the the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Act, which could get passed this year or it could be kicked to the new Congress. But it's got bipartisan support now, so we're ready to. It's actually going to be. I think it's going to be passed. Anyway, that was really big, and it kind of convinced. This ride was so successful that it convinced other people to do similar things. My sister-in-law, the woman is in the center of the photo on the right. At the top is Alicia Debink, and she held a ride that was very almost exactly the same in Madison. We had almost 1,000 people there. Really wonderful event held the next year. A person I didn't know named Todd Fox held a Ride for Your Life in Saskatchewan, in Saskatoon, and he's done two of them. I decided to hold another one in DC the next year. And then that after that, a young cyclist named Magnus White was killed. You may have heard of him. He was a junior champion cyclist on the USA cycling team, and he was killed in Boulder, Colorado. And we organized this ride for him on the anniversary of his death and had almost 5,000 people come. Colorado's biggest ride of this sort ever. And I think in the United States, the biggest ride of this kind that specifically, or the biggest, I shouldn't say ride, I should say advocacy event or, uh, uh, public kind of event for roadway safety that's ever been held in America. And that was called the Ride for Magnus. You can see it's also a Ride for Your Life event. And it was sort of at that point more people began to hear our friends in Boston. You know Eric Olson, I'm sure, and Alexa, and they held the Ride for Your Life in Boston that year, right after Magnus's ride. And they've held since. They actually held a quick ride after Alexa's friend Min T Nguyen was killed, and other people. And then there's been three events in Boston. Um, so it was at that point that I began to realize that this is a kind of a thing. Um, I kept it going. We held the next ride in 2024. We did it in 2025, um, and as well. Hold on a second. I'm getting a. For some reason, I'm not able to advance my slide. There it is. We held it in 2025 as well. And it began to a formula really began to emerge out of these things. This was not just a ride, it was actually a ride and a walk. It was an event, really, and it had several key elements. Um, it's memorializing a victim, of course. We try to focus on one person. Most importantly, we pair this with advocacy that we actually, maybe a specific legislative ask that we actually try to get passed. And in Maryland last year, for example, we actually got the ask passed. The Sarah Debink Langenkamp Act is still going strong and is going to get passed. The Magnus White Cyclist Safety Act that came out of that ride is also included in the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Act. There's always a ride, a walk, and a rally. So Amy Cohen persuaded me, you guys know Amy, I'm sure, that this can't be just about cyclists. It really needs to be about everybody on the roads, and particularly about vulnerable road users. So that's why we always have a walk for your life. And it's typically a 1 mile walk that ends with the rally where we all converge and and have a limited number of speakers, three or four speakers that represent the diverse interests that we've got. You've got typically a victim's family. You've typically got a legislator or two that we bring in, get them on the record supporting this legislation that we are introducing. We have a member of our civil society organizations. Those kind of three elements are really important. We always have, do this as a slow and safe set of rides and walks so that everybody can participate. The partnerships with the local organizations like you, or like with Mass Bike or the Washington Area Bicyclist Association, are really critical. We can't do them without these partnerships. The rides are free. We try to get as much media as we can. And of course, as I said, they're always focused on vulnerable road users. So our four objectives really are to commemorate losses, but and people often confuse us, or not confuse us, but ask us how we're different than the Ride of Silence. And really, we are commemorating losses just like they are. And that's a great organization. It's not actually an organization, that's a great movement. But we are trying to specifically get specific legislative and infrastructure or policy changes out of the rides. And we don't end our advocacy with the ride. What we intend to do is take the supporters that we've got, the coalitions that we're working with, people like you, people like Families for Safe Streets, and we try to march these asks through legislative sessions or through the policy process using our supporters. And that, it's actually the coalitions that make things work. Having a family member available to testify, having supporters that are able to come to press conferences or show up at testimony is really important. The media element is super important because it helps increase awareness, obviously, but it has a big influence on the legislators, as do the walks and rides themselves. The legislators need to see us as a constituency out on the roads willing to do this. And I'm sure you've seen this. Like when you get people in the streets, and you get those legislators actually involved in the events, they see the passion, they see what a positive movement this is, and it at least in Maryland, it's deeply influenced the legislators there, and it helped us undo problems in the bill that we passed last year. Someone wanted to weaken the bill, and I was able to call the legislators that had sponsored the bill and the chairman of the committee who was at our ride. And I said, this is going to weaken the bill and it's not going to make the bill worthwhile. And we were able to get those amendments undone. I think our biggest, so the legislative changes are important. The awareness is important. And as I'm sure you agree, like in all of our work, the cultural change that we're trying to implement is critical. So these are our four big objectives. I mentioned that partnerships are really important. So above in the photo, you can see that Maryland legislators and other people from the Maryland Department of Transportation. I just have Maryland there because that's where we started the ride. We had a lot of them there, but we focus on DC and Virginia here too. In the right side picture, that's Jim Burke, the president and CEO of Trek Bicycles, who's been a big supporter. And then in the middle there is the Washington Area Bicycles Association, who really did the logistics for the first year of ride and in several of the years of rides. Jordan actually comes from WABA. He was their event planner. So these three sort of, I think, critical parts of our coalition. Media is not just an afterthought, and to facilitate this, I will just keep moving. But I did want to highlight, this story in the New York Times, which was a big story. Great to get something in the Times, of course, was written after the first Ride for Your Life, and it basically outlined how the United States, its decrease in roadway deaths hasn't nearly matched the decreases that you've seen in other countries, like in France and Japan, the light blue lines, where the decrease in deaths has really gone down dramatically. So, we had obviously, there's a story that I did with NPR that year as well. So the media is really important, and that's something that I just want to emphasize. For us, it's not an afterthought. Families are not an afterthought either, and you really need to work with them. And we do that wherever we can with our rides. We've had some impacts. Really proud of these things. Sarah's law in Maryland, the law in Congress, the Magnus's law in Congress, and other things. The law that we passed two bills in Maryland actually. Last year's law was the Super Speeders Act that Families for Safe Streets is working around the country. I wanted to support that. It made perfect sense. And so the advocacy that we helped them with really made a difference. We're going to be passing that same bill in Madison this year, working with a family of a boy that was killed by a speeder in Madison. Obviously, in Boston this year, we are really focusing on Louisa Gagg and her death. And we're going to look at, and we'd actually like to talk with you about this because we would like to focus on a Boston related ask. I think that will be something related to trucking regulations for city fleets because she was killed by a truck and or a truck driver, and there's a big need for safety measures on trucks. Sarah was killed actually by a truck that, much like the Luis's truck, had very few safety tools on it. And then there's other opportunities at the state level and in Massachusetts. Anyway, after so these are actually screenshots from our website, which I encourage you to look at, rideforyourlife.org, that Jordan has worked on. This is us passing the bill in Maryland the first time, the first bill named after Sarah. And that's the governor turning his to us. Uh, just a big, huge moment. Uh, Pretty quick run through. This is Sarah. Our motto is our streets exist for everyone. And And thank you for letting us present. Jordan, if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, just to emphasize that we are organizing an event in Boston for October 25th, and we're making it open for people to bike ride and to walk. And along with it, there's going to be a large rally, and so that'll start at Boston Common. The walk portion is going to likely head to City Hall and then kind of come back by the Department of Transportation and then arrive again at the rally where we'll gather people and have speakers and addressing the crowd right at the Massachusetts State House. So we want to invite people and spread the word because it's a very impactful event that is moving but really inspiring as well. And we can answer questions. We can have conversation about the advocacy that we can do in Boston. But we're so glad to have you listening, and it's always impactful to hear Dan speak to his story. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I have one comment. And well as everyone being invited to participate in walking or riding, we also need lots of volunteers to help with the event. So hopefully we can get people from all of our different advocacy groups around Massachusetts to come help us with the event as well as participate.
So Sherry is our walk leader. Thank you, Sherry.
And Brandon helped us figure out where we're walking.
Yeah,
And
we were thinking through about to have a good route too. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah. And Brandon, actually, I've heard so much about you. It's really great to meet you, I must say.
yeah, great to talk to you too, Dan and Jordan. And yeah, thanks so much for this. This is excellent. I dropped the link in the chat specifically for the Boston effort. So if people want to check that out, it's right there. Um, Dan, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about the different truck safety legislation that you guys have been working on and passing in different places, because there is definitely an interest and a moment here in Massachusetts that we need to work on. There have been truck safety legislation that was passed at the state level, that has, I will say, been watered down a bit. And then there has been follow-up legislation to try to unwater them down that is just kind of hung up right now. So would love to hear like what type of the legislation was in particular. Because
Yeah.
it was basically related to side guards here in Massachusetts.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Well, that's what we asked for, side guards, like federal legislation on side guards, and we
mm,
asked for federal legislation to require ADAS systems, advanced driver assistance systems like automatic emergency braking and other, technologies that would improve the safety of trucks. So that, I think actually there's a big opportunity to get Massachusetts municipal authorities to buy or retrofit trucks with automatic emergency braking.
mm,
Sensitive, and they're going to hem and haw. They're going to say that you can do it maybe for pedestrians, but doing it for cyclists is more difficult because there's lots of different kinds of trucks and they all need different kinds of technology. I've actually sat with with NHTSA, the federal agency in charge of safety standards, and talked with them about this as part of a group with the Truck Safety Coalition. And so, Brendan, I would really recommend that you get hooked up with the Truck Safety Coalition. Zach Cahalan there is great. He knows the federal and the he knows the legend. He knows that all of this. He knows the space incredibly well.
Yeah,
And if you haven't met him, I can introduce you, and he could help
sure.
shape this.
Yeah, we used to have a plethora of riches here in the greater Boston area with Volpe in our backyard.
Oh wow, yeah, of
So
course.
Alex Epstein was like the lead person
Oh
on a
yeah,
bunch of the truck safety things. He has gone on
right.
to bigger and better things. He's now working for the UN related to truck safety and I believe he moved to Switzerland related to that just recently. Um, which is wonderful for him, but also, such a loss for us in Massachusetts here, because he really helped shape Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville's ordinances related to truck safety and side guards. So I think we just need to take the standard that he has started and just kind of run with it. But
Was he
um,
the one that drafted the study for the organization Stop Underride?
it's possible. I don't know for sure, but
I
he
think
had
I had
worked.
heard. Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
would
know.
not be surprised because he has definitely worked with some of the national entities around that because he's done a lot of um, he helped MassDOT with their study related to direct vision and like actually measuring fleets by, sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle of different trucks and seeing what you could actually see from that. And then like, okay, like this is a problematic that
Really
seven
important. Yeah,
seven kids can be sitting in front of this truck and you can't see any of them. So
well, I mean, with big industrial trucks, Volpe's study said that 27 cyclists could fit in the blind spot where my wife was, and the deepest part of that blind spot was exactly where she was hit. Ralph, you said something, but you're on mute.
you're still on mute.
Still on mute. Until Ralph gets on. I think that actually Massachusetts would be a great place to pass an AEB law because you're so progressive.
Mhm.
I think
And I just
Summer, oh, I
yeah.
was just saying Somerville's a good example of having really stepped out and outside of what the state is doing as a community in Massachusetts. Somerville has been fantastic in what they have done with their city fleet.
Amazing.
And there are no deaths in 3 or 4 years in road traffic. There's a couple articles about Somerville out now, and it's been really, really good.
Oh, it's incredible. Is this hey,
Yeah,
Brian, this link you
you
shared?
yeah,
I don't
Sherry,
have
you beat me to it. I was looking for the Boston Globe article this past week. So
can you
that's
get
related
that
to it.
article? I don't have a subscription to the Boston Globe. I can never get on their website.
I can send you a PDF of it. So how about that? So
Awesome.
good.
So,
Boston Globe does not do gift articles. It's very annoying.
No.
oh,
Yeah.
that's not great.
Alexis, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sure Betsy will follow on, but one of the issues we've been having is Massachusetts has a strong hometown rule. Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So Massachusetts has a strong hometown rule. So I know, like, for example, Springfield, all of the snow plows are contractors. And that's where this legislation seems to fall apart is that the city can't get all their little snowplow dudes to follow the law. And so I believe MMA, Massachusetts Municipal Association, ended up being our primary opponent because we have so much hometown rule and kind of small contractors working for municipalities. Brendan, you probably also know more about this than I do.
Yeah, I think some of the argument was that this was an unfunded mandate on municipalities. I think that's the turn of phrase that they prefer to use.
Yeah,
So
see that. It is tough. I mean, it does cost money, and everybody's like, no, 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 we're not going to spend a dime. In Maryland, they're not going to spend. any of this stuff.
John.
Yes, this is John York, and I live on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. I thank you very much for inviting me to participate. Um, I the truck safety thing. I went to the hearing that Brendan referred to when it was the hearing where we tried to keep them from watering down the truck safety. I A lot of this truck safety came up after George Clemmer was killed in almost a duplicate accident of several others we've heard about, going under a truck. Um, and George was a longtime friend of mine for 50 years and an advocate for many things, including just general common sense or better legislative treatment, especially within Mass DOT. And our sense at the time, and unfortunately it still seems to be some of that going on, is that the planners love lip service. They love everything we produce that they can take and duplicate in print. That's as far as it goes. And it gets pretty frustrating. This is an oddball thing. I just want to throw it out there. For projects where there's obvious need for bicycle pedestrian facilities and where the project proponent, usually a state DOT, essentially blows it off, what I see is that there's one contractor who's designing the vehicle lanes and the pedestrian bicycle, and they prioritize the vehicle lanes, and the whole project follows that priority. I think a state law or national law, got to work at the state level first, that required for projects over a certain size or with a certain percentage of bicycle pedestrian mix, that they have to let the contractor, design contract to a different contractor for the pedestrian bicycle. It seems like a really weird thing, but the more you do the permutations on that, the more it forces a lot of hands to be more straightforward and actually deal with the pedestrian issues. When there's a company whose contract performance is only on how well they deliver, the project delivers pedestrian bicycle infrastructure, it's the contractors who drive these projects. Don't let the administrators at your state DOT fool you. It's the contractors who make the decisions. And if there's a contractor who's only interested in seeing better bicycle pedestrian facilities, we're going to get a better hand. That's just something I just want to throw out there for everyone to think about. But facilities make a difference too in keeping cars, bikes separated from trucks. And it's something it's an ongoing battle. It always looks good if you just read the print about a project, but when you look at what actually happens, it's often not there. And just quickly, one other thing, the snowplow issue for small municipalities, I live in a small municipality with a lot of big highway in it, is a real issue. The cost of contractors, they just keep squeezing the town on the pricing. It triples in 3 years. And the contractors, again, are the ones who are driving the mix. I don't have a solution for that, but I saw that in the hearing for George Clemmer's legislation. And it's an issue. I live in the town and I see both sides of it. It's something where both sides are going to have to come together with a positive, we're going to make this work attitude. And getting from here to there is tough, and it's going to be a challenge. Thanks.
Yeah, John, you had a lot there, and there was a lot to chew on. I think especially because you see on the planning side, there are, you know, firms that really focus on bike and ped things, and a lot of them are doing some great things, and others are more focused on, general traffic and thinking about vehicles. So like it would make sense that there are people on the construction side too that really are better than others focusing on those. So that's a really interesting piece.
I've even heard that like different firms, like different the Boston chapter is designing all the the bike ped infrastructure, but the ones out in Western Mass are designing, throughput, vehicle turning radius. Those are the priorities, and it's the same company.
Hmm. And you might have the C team as well, like in that office too. There's also an piece. So um, cool. Um, other questions that folks have for Dan and Jordan?
Could I just comment on one thing? I don't know that the mass how the Massachusetts legislature works, but working a little bit.
Doesn't.
I'm sorry.
She said it doesn't.
It
Doesn't.
doesn't.
Oh, that's not true. I mean, you guys have the most progressive set of laws,
Aside. Okay.
right? Like one that's,
Okay.
don't you think?
Yeah, yes and no. I think there's a lot of
Yes
inaction
and no.
before. Yes and no, I think is the right answer.
Okay, so maybe Maryland
Right.
is progressive, very progressive also, and they pride themselves on actually getting things done. Unlike the U.S. Congress, they're very proud of the fact that they're not the U.S. Congress, and if a bill comes forward, they pass a lot of bills every year,
Mm.
and and what I found working on these bills is that the key is not having the best law come forward. It is getting we get wrapped up around the axle about what's the best thing to propose. The key is get a legislator on board with something, like have an idea, whether it's, you know, blacklisting dangerous contractors or side under ride guards required for municipal fleets, something. But whatever it is, get somebody to sponsor a bill
Mhm.
and then just work with them to pass it. Like, and then work on something else next year. I just think that we, as a movement, need to be very practical and just think about the mechanisms by which things get passed and don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You can perfect a law actually after we have a Vulnerable Road Users Act that was great. It was passed in 2021. My wife's driver was prosecuted under it. It required only a $2,000 fine and 150 hours of community service and a suspension of his license. Really light. But I think the ride this year is going to strengthen that law.
Mm.
Step by step, we're going to improve these things. I just think that the links with legislators is really important, and we need to sort of cultivate those sympathetic legislators.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. I think one way that things have moved here in Massachusetts of late, the last couple sessions, we have a 2-year legislative session, is standalone bills move along to a point, but then to get something actually passed, it needs to get wrapped into something bigger that is definitely going to pass as an amendment. So there have been I'll say, savvy, sympathetic legislators who kind of know that that is the game now and are looking for opportunities to move things along, like safety cameras in Massachusetts. Um,
Yeah.
'Cause that is now, in an amendment in the economic development bill or something like that. So, it's they're looking for knowing they know what the state house what the scene looks like now and how things don't necessarily move along as standalones. So they're looking for ways to once again, like you're saying, like not let perfect be the enemy of the good and move some of these things along.
That's cool.
Yeah. Betsy, you
I
got your
think
hand up.
safety cameras is
Well,
a big.
yeah, no, they'd love to have things die in Ways and Means, and the average piece of legislation takes 7 years if it passes at all, is sort of the what we work with. My question is, we've been focused on doing World Day of Remembrance events in November, now for a number of years, and starting to plan this year, the focus already of this year's. How is having an additional walk, ride, big event in October both
Helpful. Yeah.
complimentary or overkill?
Yeah. So
And that, in terms of what a Walk Massachusetts message is to all our local folks,
yeah,
do we
I
encourage them to, well, in Boston, maybe encourage them to get involved with this and pass on World Day of Remembrance this year. But meanwhile, those of us in the hinterlands in Western Massachusetts continue to focus on
Right.
our World Day of Remembrance.
The thought that we've been mulling, Betsy, is that this is an opportunity for people to come together and still be able to do the World Day of Remembrance stuff in their own neighborhoods or in their own community. And this is a way to get the best of both worlds. Instead of like trying to drive everyone to Boston on World Day of Remembrance, this is giving the opportunity to have a big
Okay.
thing where people can come together, but then also make sure to give space to communities that want to be doing something and that they know that it's important to get they're never going to get their local legislator to go to Boston for World Day of Remembrance, but they can get them to go to town hall in their town. Sherry, it looks like you were about to jump in too.
Yeah, I was going to say with Families for Safe Streets, what we've been talking about in our chapter is that we probably would not plan an event in the Boston area, but we want to make ourselves available to communities throughout the state where they might want some support planning or support during the day they have an event. So we wanted to be, you know, I mean, like I know Betsy, you're always on those World Day Remembrance calls, at least in the past years. I remember you being there.
Yep.
That you plan your events, you're stable. But if you wanted somebody, we would be available. But we're probably thinking smaller communities that have never done this or they're just starting to get organized. We can be a support system for them and not plan another big event. And since we're talking about World Day of Remembrance, I don't know who was on the meeting last week. I know Dan was. There is a poll they sent out asking about changing the United States affiliation with the date that is the world date and moving it to a more weather-friendly time period for the United States. So the date may change, but then we would not be in
We've
sync with the world day.
actually lucked out in the last, yeah, although we've lucked out incredibly that somehow the third Sunday of November has been, never know, you know. But I agree.
Yeah, it isn't always though, and as soon as it starts, as soon as that sun dips down, it gets very cold sometimes.
Right.
So, Dan, did you want to chime in anything on that last
Yeah,
question before we
we
move
have
on?
to do it early in the day.
Yep. I
John, I think wanted to say something on that.
John.
Yes, I'd like to say that the weather is great in the fall down here on Cape Cod. Beautiful cycling. We have cycling through the winter because the warm water, thanks to global warming, keeps our weather warm. We do a lot of late season outdoor events in November and on the water even. So I think if we want to, I'm even thinking trying to do something small this year right in our town of Bourne. A lot of focus on the canal area right now for transportation. There's two beautiful 7 mile long canal paths either side of the canal. It's usually warm in November. I'm trying to think of something small I can put together on short notice, but or maybe next year. But November is great on Cape Cod.
I do like this idea of having complementary events or, World Day of Remembrance events on local communities. If you don't want to do a local event, come to Washington, where we're going to have a giant ride walk here. We're working with everybody. And over time, it is going to become a bigger ride with a national focus, I hope. And anyway, I know it's tricky for us as an organization to do a bunch of ride walks on World Day of Remembrance. And so we need to stagger them. And that was it's kind of a practical issue for us. And but I do think that this solution is going to work. We don't have to have only one roadway safety event every year. Like it's a huge event, it impacts everybody. So why not just keep hammering away at these legislators?
Well said. I think that's an excellent point too. So, yeah. And just wanted to flag that Alexis put a link in the chat to the Mass Bike page that tracks some of the legislation. It's not 100% current, but it is definitely hitting on some of the pieces there. So,
yeah, I think when Galen became the ED, he had kind of a punch list, and I think things were missing right now are like bikes in crosswalks, because right now you still have to get off your bike and walk across a crosswalk. So, and then obviously some of the automatic enforcement and the truck stuff has been watered down. Yeah, there's still a lot of room for growth. But a lot of our big ticket items did get passed in the last few years.
I also love that photo that's there, Alexis, because that's two folks that predated me and Galen. That's Price Armstrong on the right, who had been at Mass Bike, and then that's Hillary Borcherding, who had been at Walk Boston at the time. So that's probably from 2012 at least, I would say.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I know Price.
It's
Yeah.
a great photo. It's a great photo. So
It needs a caption. You got to
yeah,
talk to those guys.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
great cat. Great.
It's a timeless photo, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
great.
So many
Are
people
there
are talking about safety cameras. Sorry to interrupt. Many people are talking about safety cameras. I just wonder if that's the thing that you guys and everybody else should be really trying to get done this year. My understanding is there's no safety cameras in Massachusetts right now. Is that right?
I think we have like a pilot program on like school buses, and maybe one other thing, like I think road workers, but that might be the second part. Brendan, you can correct me.
Yeah, the bill for the bus, like school buses, passed last year, and but I don't, because there had been a pilot in a couple communities on the North Shore that showed widespread violation of people passing school buses, like a shocking amount. And so that bill passed, and there was also a bill for bus lane enforcement that passed. There are not yet bills for red light or speed cameras. That is, some of those are still alive at the State House, but we're the the formal session is over. It is now in informal session, but this session is slightly different because they made it so conference committees could continue moving things along as long as pieces were included in bills that are in front of the conference committees. Very confusing. We don't even know what that completely means. But the uh, speed cameras were part of an amendment that the conference committees are looking at, which is good. So yes, I think that should be a priority. And then, thinking ahead to, because this is the final year of the 2-year session, thinking ahead to next, 2-year session as well, which would kick off in January. I think a number of these different issues should be on the table, like the Families for Safe Streets Stop Super Speeders effort seems to make a lot of sense here as well.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. I'm actually, yeah, we need to find for the Fight for Your Life this legislative ask
That super
right now.
speeder legislation is if you Google that, will you find it?
Yeah. Yep. You'll get it under look at the Families for Safe
Okay.
Streets website. It's there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
It basically, I can explain it real quick if you want in 30 seconds. It basically allows a judge to put an intelligent speed assistance device, this device in a car of a person. And that device forces or does not allow them to speed. And you do this to people who are repeated speeders or caught excessively speeding 30, 40 miles over the speed limit or driving super recklessly. The statistics show that these people are between like 5 and 50 times more likely to kill than anybody else. And a lot of these people, 75%, over 75%, drive even after you suspend their licenses. You've got this group of bad actors on the roads responsible for a lot of deaths, and you approach them in the solution. Still allow people to get to work, go to medical appointments, so it's equitable. Got a lot of traction in America, and that's why so many
It
states.
must rely though on Google having the correct speed. for
It
a
uses
given
GPS.
road though, or some,
Yeah. Yeah,
which
it would
we
rely on
found
that.
is a
Yeah.
chronic problem in Springfield, that a lot of our roads have lowered to 25 and they're still, Google still says you can go 30 or whatever, or the other map programs. But it would be something. It would be,
Yeah, and it's similar
yeah.
to if you're thinking of like hardship licenses and for repeat DUI offenders who have like an ignition interlock, it would be similar to that where they would be required to install a device on their vehicle to allow them to have the privilege of continuing to drive, but there are more restrictions on them to continue having that privilege. So great. Are there other questions that folks might have for Dan or Jordan or wider? Fantastic. Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jordan, and thanks everyone for being here today. Good conversation, and there are links in the chat. I dropped the Stop Super Speeders thing in there, but definitely check out rideforyourlife.org/Boston to sign up to participate in whatever way you want to participate, whether that's doing the walk, doing the ride, or volunteering as well. Like definitely could use that help as well. And remind us of the date. Is that October 25th, a Sunday? Is that correct?
That's right. And we are looking for walk marshals as volunteers, to sort of assist with the whole walk experience and help everyone have a good experience with that. So you can sign up to walk on your own or volunteer. We'd really love to have people participate. So thank you for hearing us today.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody,
Perfect.
and hope to see y'all soon.